Human Vengeance. Chapter 3. A Broken World. The world was silent as we collectively reeled from what we had seen. Smoking and dust-filled ruins of our centuries of life littered the globe. Their populations were wiped out at the whim of an uncaring hand. Relief efforts were sent almost painfully slowly. We knew the chances of finding survivors were practically non-existent, but we had to try. As soon as the first people arrived, images of the wreckage were broadcast. It was clear just how efficient the invaders' weapons had been. With the odd exception, nothing stood anymore. Even as efforts were underway, an emergency meeting was called between world leaders. They came together without hesitation. Rivalries and disagreements were set aside, as all had been affected. The main chair, Helen Bourke, the Prime Minister of England, addressed them together, her voice carrying the weight of all lives lost. Ladies and gentlemen, kings, queens, presidents, and prime ministers, in the past week, we have both gained and lost. We have learned that intelligent life is not confined to our planet. We have gained knowledge that not only is space travel truly possible, but viable in traversing the cosmos. But the price we paid for this knowledge was far too high. From the reports available, it is estimated that nearly 3 billion people have been murdered. We will never have an accurate death count. Centuries of culture has been ended. The economic impact will be felt for generations to come. The question we must ask ourselves is, how do we move on from this? The world we knew is no more. Is it right to go back to how we were, or should we unite? And what about those murderers who slaughtered our fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, our sons and daughters? Can we let them go unpunished? Her speech created a buzz, but only in the room but around the world. We watched as they decided our next moves, even as individuals tried to continue life. However, amid the pain and sorrow, joy sparked. First in Mumbai, then in New York, survivors were found. They were battered and bruised. Some had lost limbs, others the use of parts of their bodies. But each one was celebrated. After debates raged for days, a consensus was made. Going back to a divided world was a mistake. We had a common enemy. From the ashes of what had once been, a unified people would be born. Some leaders refused to join together. They left, seeing themselves as true leaders for their people. They expected to be met with adoration as they chose their people over others. In some cases, that was indeed the case, but the majority of their civilians refused it. They wanted to be one. They demanded that those leaders return and join the growing community. And when they denied the request, they were removed from power. Some were replaced peacefully. But in other places with more totalitarian regimes, more blood was spilled. Popular opinion affected not only leaders. Companies and individuals who attempted to capitalize on limited goods were shut down. Companies were dissolved, with assets seized. Individuals were arrested, and their personal belongings were taken and used to help. Greed was not allowed to persist. Cities were slowly cleared, the immensity of the task slowing the task. No matter how many people went to help, or how many resources were provided, there was always more to do. But we carried on, refusing to give up. As the world came together and cities were cleared, a pair of websites were created. The first uploaded images of the dead as respectfully as possible. It was created to provide some closure to families who lost loved ones. The second was a digital memorial. Anyone could submit pictures, stories, videos, or anything they wanted to remember those who were lost. A growing opinion was prevalent throughout. We would have vengeance for all that we lost. Whoever these aliens were, they would be sure to pay. Human Vengeance. Chapter 4. Global Union. Weeks slowly crawled past as we began a new normal. Governments hashed out their policies, bringing them in line with one another. In many quarters, there was resistance to change. Joining together was a noble sentiment, but the nitty-gritty caused more than a few issues. But the weight of public opinion pushed them on. With mounting pressure, details were hammered out. It was an extraordinary process. What would normally have taken years to iron out now took days. As each part was finalized, the patchwork of governance was sewn together. Information flowed freely. Military knowledge was aligned, with experimental weapons and armor spread to be tested across the world. A new industrial revolution came about as places with outdated infrastructure found themselves upgraded to the modern era. Having lost much of the production industry, it was agreed to spread the burden out. More places meant they were less likely to be targeted individually, making a series of redundancies in case they returned to do the same thing again. As the months trickled by, a few cities were nearing completion of the clearance. Debates raged around how the sites should be treated. Some wanted them rebuilt as they were. Others thought they should be left as sites of historical importance. Yet others said they should be redesigned and rebuilt, with a focus on defense and ease of escape. As the debates continued, behind the scenes, the greatest minds on space came together. With the sharing of knowledge and materials, they leaped ahead in development. As they prepared for the next stages in exploration, the International Space Station reported an anomaly. They had spotted what looked to be a crate in a perfect orbit over Earth. It had markings that failed to match any records. When a telescope was focused upon it, they found it to be made of a familiar black metal, the same as the alien ships. There was an immediate discussion on what to do with it. 2 points of view emerged with near equal backing. The first was a preemptive strike. Blow it out of the sky and reduce it to dust. They feared it was another weapon that would fire whenever. Or worse, it kept the aliens in the loop about what we were doing. The other camp was to take it, bring it down, and study it. We could use it, and possibly advance our technological level by thousands of years. Destroying it would be a tremendous waste. They also reasoned that if they were using it to monitor us, destroying it would likely end badly again, whereas studying it could put us in their good books and make them leave us alone for now. They weren't simple decisions, but ones that had to be made. Arguments raged left and right, with opinions shifting daily, but as at last conclusions were made. With the cities, it was agreed to rebuild them, with adapted infrastructure. It would take decades to complete, but it had to be done. With the crate, it was settled on that it would be collected. The benefits far outweighed the risks, and it was reasoned that if they wanted us all dead, they would have done so anyway. Plus, if they did, we couldn't do much to stop it. An old shuttle was brought out of retirement for collection. Space engineers worked to get it operational, with a way of collecting this crate. Without knowledge of its mass, they opted for a drag-and-drop style collection. It would bring it into a crash course to land in the ocean where it could be retrieved for study. As plans were made and the World Union was finalized, there was a global government in place which oversaw everything. But below it, countries had their governments that could tackle smaller issues with greater accuracy, much like councils. Together, they made the Gaian Union,